Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. This is TVP World. You're watching World News. I'm your host, Benjamin Lee, and these are the latest headlines. The Liberal Party of Prime Minister Mark Carney has won enough seats in Canada's snap parliamentary elections to stay in government. It is still unclear whether they will secure a majority, with votes still being counted in the western part of the vast country. Projections show the Liberals are expected to win more than 160 districts in Canada's first past-the-post electoral system. However, it is not yet clear if they'll reach the 172 seats needed for a majority. The main opposition party, the Conservatives, led by Prime Minister candidate Pierre Poilievre, are projected to finish just shy of 150 seats. Mark Carney became Prime Minister just after Justin Trudeau stepped down in January, amid poor polling numbers triggering snap elections. Despite the Liberals trailing the Conservatives for months, the election of Donald Trump and the resulting trade conflict between the countries boosted former central banker Carney. The incoming Prime Minister of Canada, Mark Carney, spoke about the challenges he will face as the newly elected leader of the Canadian government. Following his party's victory, Carney said U.S. President Donald Trump is trying to break Canada so that the United States can own it. Carney responded to that idea with a firm rejection, saying simply no.
As I've been warning for months, America wants our land, our resources, our water, our country. Never. But these are not idle threats. President Trump is trying to break us so that America can own us. That will never ever happen. But we also must recognize the reality that our world has fundamentally changed.
European leaders have congratulated Canadian Liberal Party leader Mark Carney on retaining the position of Prime Minister in an overnight election. The victory for Canada's left-wing party comes as U.S. President Donald Trump escalates his rhetoric about wanting to annex the country's territory. Now, we are joined live by our EU correspondent, Angela Skujins from Brussels. Angela, so what have the leaders said in the wake of this win for Mark Carney and his party?
Yes, so the European leaders that have woken up this morning have praised Mark Carney for his assumed election victory in Canada for that snap election that occurred overnight. We heard warm words shared by European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen, as well as European Council President Antonio Costa. Now, in a post shared on social media platform X, von der Leyen underscored the free and fair trade relationship between Brussels and Ottawa. This is something that she aims to strengthen as Mark Carney enters this next 5-year mandate for that Liberal Party, which will hold a minority government and will need to broker some kind of deal to ensure that those bills get passed in the Parliament. We also heard warm words from European Council President Antonio Costa that underscores the EU as well as Canada's respect for rules-based order. Now, many here are seeing these comments linked to rhetoric that we've heard from US President Donald Trump, which has, in recent days, he's shared his comments that he wants Canada to be America's 51st state through economic means. We know that US has slapped 25% tariffs on Canadian goods. This was reciprocated by Canada to the US. We also know the EU is in the midst of an escalating trade war, with von der Leyen scheduled to meet with Donald Trump at an unspecified date, an unspecified location, when and only if those trade negotiations can take place. We also know that Mark Carney is expected to hold court with the US President Donald Trump to discuss similar issues. But UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer also posted on X that he is interested in shoring up shared security and defence relationships. But we'll have to wait and see what's in store for this new Canadian Prime Minister and his party, with Parliament the first day of that scheduled for May 26. But we are expecting more European leaders to share their thoughts on this election matter. But that's all from me. I'll send it back to you in Warsaw.
Thank you so much, Angela, for the update. Really appreciate it. Now, power was slowly restored to the Iberian Peninsula late Monday evening after a massive blackout brought most of Spain and Portugal to a standstill. The outage grounded planes, halted public transport, and forced hospitals in both countries to suspend routine operations. Power has returned to Basque Country, Barcelona, and parts of Madrid. According to Spain's national grid operator, about 61% of electricity was restored by Monday evening. Spain's Interior Ministry declared a national emergency, deploying around 30,000 troops as government officials held emergency cabinet meetings. The Spanish Prime Minister said the country lost 15 gigawatts of power in just 5 seconds, the equivalent of 60% of the national demand. Meanwhile, in Portugal, power is also slowly coming back. The local grid operators said 85 out of 89 power substations have been brought back online. Spanish Prime Minister Pedro Sánchez spoke out about the blackouts that struck nearly the entire Iberian Peninsula on Monday. Authorities are still investigating the cause of the outage and have not ruled out any scenario, including sabotage.
What has caused this sudden outage? This is something that specialists have not yet been able to determine, but they will. And the relevant state institutions and all private operators are working together to understand what has happened. All potential causes are being analyzed. I insist again, without ruling out any hypothesis, any possibility. There has never been a fall to zero, as they say technically, of the system. And what is being done right now is to execute the recovery in a progressive and prudent manner to avoid any kind of setbacks in the coming hours.
8 civilians, including a child, were killed in overnight Russian strikes across Ukraine. The attacks came despite talks from Vladimir Putin about a unilateral ceasefire. Drone strikes and bombings hit cities and towns across Ukraine overnight, damaging apartment buildings, houses, and businesses, and killing and wounding civilians. In the Dnipropetrovsk region, a 12-year-old was killed and 5 others were wounded. 5 people were killed in the Donetsk region, and with an additional fatalities reported from Sumy and Chernihiv. Ukraine's Air Force said it shot down 37 out of 100 drones launched by Russia in the latest wave of attacks. In his nightly address, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky said that the world does not want to wait until May 8th for a ceasefire in Ukraine. According to Zelensky, Vladimir Putin's announced ceasefire is only intended to create a peaceful atmosphere during the upcoming Victory Day parade in Moscow.
Now, once again, there is another attempt at manipulation. For some reason, everyone is supposed to wait until May 8, and only then will there be a ceasefire, in order to provide Putin with silence during the parade. We value human lives, not parades. That is why we believe, the world believes, that there is no reason to wait until May 8. The fire must be stopped not just for a few days, only to resume killing afterwards. An immediate, complete and unconditional ceasefire for at least 30 days to ensure it is guaranteed and reliable is what can provide the foundation for real diplomacy.
Donald Trump may be willing to support Ukraine, but not as President Volodymyr Zelensky. Speaking to Jeffrey Goldberg in an interview for The Atlantic, Trump said he had a hard time with Zelensky during their now infamous Oval Office meeting, saying Zelensky, quote, just wasn't getting it. When asked if there was anything Vladimir Putin could do to sway him towards Zelensky's side, Trump replied, quote, not necessarily on Zelensky's side, but on Ukraine's side, yes. Trump also, he believed Ukraine would be crushed without his support. When questioned about supplying weapons to Ukraine, Trump suggested that weapons could also mean sanctions, shifting the conversation away from military aid. The interview took place before Trump met with Zelensky on the sideline of Pope Francis' funeral at the Vatican.
Don't tell us what we're going to feel. We're trying to solve a problem.
Ivana Strander of the Foundation for Defense of Democracies told TVP World that Moscow's behavior clearly shows that it is not interested in a lasting peace. She said Vladimir Putin's proposal for a 72-hour ceasefire bears all the hallmarks of the ploys the Kremlin has used in the past.
The war still benefits him. There is one thing that he needs, which is a break and a pause to reposition his military, to rebuild, and then to continue with his war. Because we have to understand how Moscow thinks about war in Ukraine. And Putin is very blunt about his ambition when it comes to Ukraine, which is to subjugate Ukraine. We really have to understand that strategic deception is a cornerstone how Putin actually thinks about a war. He's a KGB guy. He's not a military guy. And he's not interested in peace anytime soon because his ultimate goal is to restore what he likes to call Russian greatness and to continue with his imperialistic ambition.
Warsaw is hosting an informal meeting of EU ministers for environment and climate, organized under the Polish presidency of the Council of the European Union. The talks are focusing on tackling disinformation related to environmental and climate policies, as well as on strategies for adapting to climate change. Our reporter Aisha Abaja is following the developments on the ground. Aisha, so what can you tell us so far?
Good morning, Ben. So the main topic of today is going to be to fight climate change denialism. And the informal meeting has amassed a lot of EU leaders who are here to talk about climate change disinformation, but also how to mitigate and adapt to the consequences of climate change. Now, Poland has received some criticism as to its, let's say, reluctance to address climate change issues more broadly because it has focused on hardline security much more. But we have asked some ministers about what they think on how Poland has reacted, and they seem to have a consensus on the fact that there is a big necessity to tackle the issue of climate change disinformation, because these disinformation campaigns are also fueled by Russia in order to create this kind of confusion as to if climate change exists or not. And these prove to be very, very dangerous because they say that the problem is real and it needs to be addressed as soon as possible. Now, the EU also has a 2040 climate target, which is hoping to reduce CO2 emissions by 90% until 2040. But a lot of EU members are also saying that it might hinder competitiveness. So climate change, disinformation, competitiveness, and adaptability to the causes of climate change are going to be the biggest topics of today. And at 3:30, we will be following the press conference and see what the discussions led to. So we will get back to you with more information. Back to you, Ben.
All right, thank you so much, Aisha. It does seem like the conference is about to happen soon, so please bring us an update as it rolls out. Meanwhile, appreciate it. French President Emmanuel Macron says France and Poland will sign a friendship and cooperation treaty on May 9th. Prime Minister Donald Tusk recently said it could be a landmark document for mutual security guarantees. Polish Prime Minister Donald Tusk said last month that a treaty on mutual security guarantees between Poland and France was being finalized. The agreement, which will be signed in the French city of Nancy, will replace a treaty signed in the 1990s. The new version will significantly deepen ties between the two EU members, elevating Franco-Polish relations to the same level France has with Italy, Spain, and Germany. Poland will become the first non-bordering country with which Paris signed such a high-level agreement. While the treaty covers all areas of cooperation between Paris and Warsaw, the key focus will be on the defense and energy collaboration. The U.S. Department of State has authorized a potential $280 million sale of Patriot air defense systems to Romania. According to the U.S. Defense Security Cooperation Agency, Romania is seeking one radar set, one engagement control station, 2 launching stations, a power unit, and various support equipment. The $280 million package also includes modification kits, communication gear, classified software, spare parts, and training to ensure full integration and maintenance of the Patriot system. According to a statement released by the Defense Security Cooperation Agency, the sale is aimed at improving Romania's capabilities to deter adversaries and support its participation in NATO operations. At the same time, the statement said the proposed sale will not alter the basic military balance in the region. And with that, we conclude this edition of World News. But for more news, update, and commentary, please stay tuned to TVP World.